There is no specific crime. Yeah, but I'd like to know what it is. Oh, goodness. Um. All right, we're talking about values for will and to do. Exactly at this point, it is impossible to avoid a discussion of values. The philosophy of values brings out clearly the metaphysical character of phenomenology and existentialism. As a morality, it is a theoretical morality, and even more, a metaphysical morality. Hence, it is subject to the analysis of the preceding paragraph. On the other hand, however, this philosophy of values emphatically repudiates this metaphysical character. On the other hand, however, this philosophy of values emphatically repudiates this metaphysical character. It casts the ought to be out of the domain of morality. It claims to take reality into account and to base itself on experience. It pretends to say and to describe only that which is, hence, it should serve as an introduction to what we call lived morality. The essential question which we shall attempt to answer is, obviously, does this morality of values fulfill its claims? Does it really take into account that which is? Here, then, one is justified in hesitating between a philosophy of values and a sociology of values, the first having principally to do with justification, the validity, and the authority of values, and second, with studying their objective reality, their variations as functions of social settings. The leaders of this philosophy customarily repudiate the second aspect, considering it to be superficial and secondary. By way of concession, they will acknowledge that value is tied to sociological realities, and especially to culture. The latter, in fact, is in the background of the communication of values. It is the means whereby people conceive and share the same values. Cultures condition values. Yet they quickly come back to the fact that all culture is human and that, when all is said and done, it is the person alone who counts. Often it will even be thought that it is value which determines culture, and that economic and political conflicts are in reality conflicts of values. Thus, the sociological reality becomes secondary. From our standpoint, we would be tempted to put value back into its social setting and only to treat as real the sociological analysis of values. But first, a few words are in order as to what we are dealing with. All right, I'm going to summarize that. Summarize. This passage explores the question: does the morality of values reflect reality? The two main ways to approach this are philosophy of values, focusing on justifying and understanding the importance and the authority of values, what makes them valid, and the sociology of values, studies the real world influence of values, how they change with different social settings. Philosophers of values tend to downplay the sociological approach, seen as less important. They may admit that values are shaped by culture, how people understand and share values, but ultimately they believe the individual person and their values are most important. Some even argue that values shape culture and that sociological and political conflicts are really clashes of values. However, the author suggests that we should focus more on the social context of values, studying them through the lens of sociology, because he's a sociologist. The author is a sociologist. No, duh, he says that. What is this? What's up, Carl? Did you repent, accept the truth of Christianity?
No, I did not.
Why not?
Because I believe it's false.
But we proved it's true to you.
It's not, though.
How did you determine this?
Okay, so I'm gonna bring up several talking points. Last one I tried up on Darth's live, and then he ended up banning me. So, because he kept using circular reasoning and then asking the same question over and over, wouldn't let me answer.
Stop. That's a lie. What's circular reasoning?
Okay, so he was asking me, how does what was it? How are you able to articulate reality in an intelligible way?
Yeah, how you can speak in a meaningful way, right? Because you use words of unity.
Okay, what do you mean by words of unity?
Like classes and categories of things.
Okay, so how does that tell you that what you're perceiving is reality?
The only way we can understand reality is if we organize it into groups and categories. If you can't put your perceptions of the world into a group, then you couldn't make sense of any of your perceptions. You couldn't identify them. You need to be able to group things and categorize things, identify them, in order to be able to speak about them or think about them in any sort of meaningful or true sense.
Okay, so then how is God fit into that equation?
Because God makes it possible. Because there's like intention behind the world. There's something guiding the connections that we speak of in the world. If there's nothing guiding the connections that we speak of, then they're not real connections.
No. Okay. So let me try to use the example that I tried to use with Darth, but he kept pulling me off. Okay, so let's say you have an apple on the table. How do you know that apple's real?
If God designed your thinking and God designed your senses, then you could trust that your senses and your thinking are able to connect to the world, and so that you can know the actual world and not just your perception of the world. And therefore,
okay, so then let's say God didn't exist, but I still had those senses. Are you stating that if God didn't exist, those senses are still invalid?
yeah, if God doesn't exist, then you just have a perception of the apple. You wouldn't know that there's an actual external world with an apple. You just know that you have a perception of an apple.
Okay, thank you. You just proved my point. So then how do you know that the Bible that you read exists?
Because God designed my senses and my thinking so I can trust those things.
Okay, where did you get that information?
From the Bible.
Okay, so you're stating that the Bible's real because the Bible says so. That's circular reasoning.
I'm not saying that.
Then what are you saying?
I'm saying that Bible is a necessary self-authenticating starting point in any system of truth.
Okay, how does it self-authenticate?
Because God is the ultimate authority.
Okay, what says that? The Bible, right?
Yeah.
So how does the Bible authenticate that reasoning without quoting itself? Because you have to have an outside factor to be able to have some liability.
Because if God reveals himself, so that would be justified, since God is the authority of truth in the system. God determines what's true. So if whatever God reveals is going to be justified as true. And the basis of that revelation is what is needed to have a system of truth where we could have rational and empirical evidence. And so if you deny the revelation, since human reason and observation isn't enough to have knowledge or to learn from the world, then
But it is.
No, it's not. I can easily show how it's not.
Okay, so using that logic, then you would need God to reveal himself without ever even picking up a Bible to know he's real. That's your reasoning.
No. Well, I mean, yeah, everything in creation exemplifies ultimate intention and ultimate design. So
How would you know that without the Bible, though?
because we see the order in the world, and then the question is the order in the world, is that something that our minds impose upon reality, or is that order like something that's actually there that God intended to be there?
Okay, so then I can use that same reasoning to justify of, how do you know that the Bible that you're reading that's in your hands, you physically see it, smell the pages if you want to get deep into it, because like, how people say, oh, they like the smell of old books, stuff like that. You see it, smell it, read it, feel it, touch it. How do you know that what you're perceiving is real?
Because God designed my senses and my thinking so I can trust them.
Okay, so you're stating, okay, because the Bible says that God designed me. I know that this is real. That's what you're stating. So without the Bible, how would you know that God is real?
Dude, are you slow? Like,
I'm not, because you're using circular reasoning.
do you have like a unique learning? It's not circular. What's circular?
Circular. You're stating that the Bible exists and I'm able to perceive it because the Bible says so. You're using circular reasoning.
No, that's not circular reasoning. Okay, because I have a revelatory epistemology. I'm not an empiricist, right?
Okay.
So I get knowledge directly from God through revelation. Okay.
Directly from God.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you have a revelation that you believe is a factual truth, it has to be able to be tested. That is just a personal experience which can vary between believers and non-believers.
How do you test the test? How do you know your test is accurate?
One, you get the same results. Two, other people can test the test that you're testing.
To get the same results, you need uniformity of nature. What would be your metaphysical justification for uniformity of nature?
Chance.
What?
Chance, as in...
Okay, so do you understand how you failed already?
No, I haven't failed. So
You have failed because when you talk about testing, well, God's necessary for testing because tests require the uniformity of nature, and God provides a metaphysical justification for the uniformity of nature. So when you invoke tests, you're really just talking about God, aren't you?
No, you're not. That's the
okay.
thing.
Well, then how do you explain the order in the world?
Chance. That's what I'm stating.
Chance does not explain the order in the world, sir.
Okay, but your reasoning is because a book told me so.
My reasoning is that God, who created the world, revealed himself to us so that we can have knowledge and that we can learn from experience. And if you deny that, knowledge will be impossible and learning from experience will be impossible. So due to the impossibility of the contrary, the revelation of God must be accepted or you'll be faced with radical skepticism. So now you're at a crossroads. Do you choose to be a Christian and have knowledge and be able to learn? Or do you want to embrace radical skepticism?
Okay, so then you're going from you're stating that you can't learn anything without believing in God, right? That's what you're stating.
I'm saying that learning the fact, I think we can all learn from our experience, right? You can't deny that.
No, I agree with you on that.
Everyone agrees with that. So I'm asking the question, what type of world is necessarily the case so that's possible? And that's the type of world that's described in the Bible. And if you deny that, then you'll have a world that makes knowledge impossible. So therefore, due to the impossibility of the contrary, we have to accept the world as it is described in the Bible, or else we wouldn't be able to make sense of our experiences.
Okay, so then how is it described? Okay, so you're stating that in order to understand our metaphysical reality, you have to understand what's said in the Bible, which is part of said metaphysical reality. So you're stating in order to understand reality, you have to get it from a book which is also produced by that reality. That's the same thing as me saying, I know this apple is real on the table because...
In order to understand reality, you must use the revelation of God as a foundation for your system. Then you're stating
that the teachings of... So you're stating that the Bible itself, the physical Bible, is outside of reality. The book itself.
What
it's
are
an
you
object
talking
outside
about,
of reality.
dude? What is... No, it's tangible. The Bible's a part of...
So is an apple lying on a table. So how do you know that the Bible that you read, presumably every day, whenever you read
it... Dude, when I look at the apple on the table or when I look at the Bible, my senses and my reason are aided by God, right? Because
Okay.
I believe God exists.
Okay.
Okay. When
So
you look at
it's
the Bible, when you look at the apple, you don't believe your reasoning and your senses are aided by God, correct?
correct.
So now, since you're left with human reason and observation alone, you're fucked. You understand why?
Okay. So using your reasoning, how do you know
Sir.
that the Bible you're reading is real?
Sir, because do you understand we have different systems? I reason with aid from God. You try to reason without aid from God. Do you understand that?
Okay. So how do you know that God's aiding you? 100%.
Because if God wasn't
Without using
aiding,
the Bible,
if
without using the Bible to justify it, how do you know that God is aiding you?
because
Can you test
since the impossibility of the contrary, if we try to rely on our reason and observation alone without aid from God, then knowledge and learning from experience becomes impossible. Since that cannot be the case, that's necessarily false. God
Okay,
has to
so then,
exist.
so we can't use reasoning or logic. So are we able to make decisions without God?
Dude, we can use reasoning and logic, and that proves God.
Okay, so what you're stating is you're using circular reasoning. You're stating because the Bible says though this is how it's laid out in the Bible, therefore it's real.
Okay, where's the circularity in the argument?
Okay, that's what I'm trying to explain to you. You said that
Circularity is when the conclusion's in the premise, right? So here's my argument. Facts, if and only if the Christian God's true. We have facts, therefore the Christian God's true. Where's the circularity?
of your source of reason, which is the Bible. You're using a singular source
Circularity is
of information
about
to validate
arguments.
itself.
Tell me the circularity in my argument, or I'm going to kick you.
That's what I'm telling you. You're using
The conclusion has to be in the premise, right? Did you hear the argument?
Okay, I understand that.
If and
But
only
with
if God exists.
With your argument, you have to have information.
We
That
have
information
facts,
source
therefore
you're
God
stating-
exists. How's that circular?
Okay.
Admit you lied.
Can you let me finish?
No, you are going to tell me how my argument is circular. The argument goes as follows. Facts, if and only if God exists. We have facts, therefore God exists. Where is the circularity?
Come from? Where because you're not
Thanks
stating
for
where you
coming.
get the
And
facts.
you know what? Never request to come up here again. You are a dishonest, dirty, rotten scoundrel.
I'm
and I
cooking
never
you
want to
off
interact with you
dark
again.
so bad
You are
you have to block
dishonest.
me.
I never.
I'm not
Are you
dishonest.
hearing me? I don't want to interact with you. You are a rotten person.
Wow.
You come up here and you say I'm making a circular argument, and then you don't even defend that claim.
I'm trying to defend it.
BSer.
You won't let me finish.
You're not. You're a liar.
I'm trying to
You have
tell
to show.
how
You have to show
your
the conclusion
reasoning
is in the premise. Premise
circular?
one. Where's the
Okay.
circularity? Premise one. Facts, if and only if God exists. Premise two. We have facts. Conclusion. God exists.
Again,
Where is God
I'm kicking it
exists?
out. Where do you get those
in the
facts?
premise? Tell me where in those premises is there God exists? It's not
In
there.
the
Is
facts,
it?
you're stating if and only if the Christian God exists, due to facts, therefore God exists. What about the facts? What credible source are you getting those facts from? The credible source only validates itself. It's not validated by any other outside source. So therefore,
This is not
your
explaining the
logic
circularity. This is not explaining the circularity in the argument.
It is.
Okay, thanks for coming. You are horrible. You are a horrible person.
How? How am I a horrible
I
person?
wish you well, but like honestly, you have bad karma coming to you if you're gonna act like this to people.
How am I acting like?
Oh my God. These people they accuse it. Oh, circular reasoning. Where's the circularity? He starts talking about my metaphysical assumptions as opposed to my argument. Explanations are not the same as arguments, okay? This is a rookie mistake. Explanations, if an explanation is circular, that's not the same issue as if an argument is circular. Ding dong. Oh. They all it's this combination of they're super arrogant and they're ignorant. And isn't that funny? This is in the Tao Te Ching. It says those who know don't speak, and those who don't speak, or those who don't know speak. I screwed that up. Those who know don't speak, and those who speak don't know. That's what it says in the Tao Te Ching, and we see that proven consistently. Like the most ignorant people have the loudest voices on these panels, Every time. Every time. And the people that like have knowledge, they're more quiet and reserved. What a bunch of garbage. Oh, your argument's circular, and then doesn't even tell me the circularity in the argument. Pathetic. Oh, I don't have a lot of time, but I'll probably start. I have to take a break, and then I'll probably start streaming later.
Hello.
Welcome.
I haven't seen you in a couple of days.
Oh, I stream every day, just about. So.
Must be my timing.
Yeah. What would you like to say?
Oh, just hating on that last guy for kind of just railing on the point.
Yeah, I gave him the syllogism, and I tasked him with showing me the circularity in the argument, and he started talking about my metaphysical assumptions. So that's not my argument. That's my. It's different.
What's your explanation? Yeah. That don't make no sense. Honestly, I do. Oh, excuse me. Sorry. I do agree with a lot of his points, but maybe not that last one. That one was a little. Just the science-based stuff. A whole lot of gaining knowledge from chance and all that jargon.
You think we could have knowledge in a chance universe?
I do, but I think it's really, really unlikely.
In a chance universe, anything is possible. So the knowledge, if you did have knowledge, it'd be possible that knowledge changes, like the instant you know it. So you can't know anything because anything is possible. Things are constantly changing. There has to be some order and consistency for coherence.
Right. I usually chalk that up to like physical laws, chemistry, physics, stuff like that.
Yeah, but the physical laws are the order I'm talking about, right? How do you explain that order? And it's either going to be that it's mentally imposed on the world by our minds, or in which case it's not real, which would make all of our language has no meaning then, or the order in the world is intended to be that way, inherently purposed and designed by God. And that if that's the case, then when we talk to each other about the order in the world, it's actually real and meaningful, because God can actualize reality, while a human mind cannot make things actual in reality.
I think you're right to an extent, mostly, because I do believe that most of our five senses are not like the extent of reality, and also that really most of the things that we observe that happen over time and that we say like, oh, like this thing is the same as this thing that happened a while ago, are held in mostly our neurons.
Even like if you're eating spaghetti, you have one sense data or observation or perception or whatever. There's like a sense data of the smell of the spaghetti, right? And then there's like the sense data of the taste of the spaghetti. The problem is they're separate. They're different sense data. They're different perceptions. But you're saying like you're going to assume that the spaghetti you smell is the same spaghetti as the spaghetti you taste. But do you ever observe the similarity between the perceptions? Do you ever observe that the identity of the spaghetti that you smell is the same identity of the spaghetti that you taste? Through observation alone, you would have no basis to say that it's the same spaghetti. But if there's no similarity between perceptions, if there's no connection between perceptions, then we can't group perceptions. And if we can't put perceptions into groups, then we can't understand the perceptions. So putting things into categories and groups is necessary to make them intelligible for us to understand them, and then also like to communicate them. And if we can't do that, and observation alone doesn't provide us like any like reason or knowledge of what a group is, that you're cooked. Human reason and observation can't get you anything. So
I don't think it can get you much when we're talking about like the real scale of reality, especially when you're talking about like combining senses together. I believe in my worldview that the brain does that, and it's been doing it for, you know, millions of years and has gotten really, really, really good at it in certain contexts. And, you know,
that means
like,
it's not real. That our experience is like a fantasy.
yeah,
So it's like
basically.
these atheists, they want to say like, "Oh, you believe in God? That's a fantasy. That's Harry Potter." Well, you believe in atheism? Now reality is a fantasy. Now physical objects aren't real. They're imaginary. Like that's insane.
It does sound insane, doesn't it?
And because I believe in God, I have a justification to say the external world is real. Physical objects are real. We can have knowledge, we can have logic, and we can use reason. Everything makes sense in Christianity. And you deny that, and people want to deny that for like an irrational worldview. I don't get why do they do that.
I think it's because they want to have a more limitless worldview. When you say it is chaotic and like ever changing, I think you're kind of right, though there are clear cut, observable laws. You're saying those are presupposed by God. I just think that they are, and we don't know why they are, and we're trying to find out. That's really it.
Yeah, but
That's one, I mean, mostly my argument.
I don't know why. Like, why can you take this position that, well, I believe there's these laws. There's no real reason for them, but they just are. Like, you can believe that, but you can't believe. Why can't you believe that God revealed Himself to humans?
Well, after a while of thinking like just these laws don't hold reason, right? Like human reason, you start to wonder like, well, does anything hold reason? And the atheist point of view usually is that like nothing holds intrinsic meaning. You're right. So it's mostly human meaning, like social meaning.
Well, then it's not real. So then everything's a fantasy. I just don't want to live. If I want my life to be real, not a fantasy. So that's why I'm a Christian. But I kind of want to move on to like I have to go in like 10 minutes. So I want to move on to like one more person maybe before I go.
Totally fine. Have
All
a good
right.
day, man.
Yeah, you too. I wish you well. Thanks for coming.
Wish you well.
Welcome guest.
Hello.
You an adult?
Yes, I'm 18. Well, up there.
Okay.
I want to say something. I feel on your last, not your last, but the other person that you debated,
Yeah.
with, I feel you are the wrong deliverer. Like, I feel like you don't understand what a debate is. You sat there and argued with him and you cursed when you try to get your point across. That is not what the Lord wanted us to, communicate with others who don't believe us. So I feel you're not the right person to deliver anything,
Yeah.
Like, I feel you could have came off a better way, but that was don't try to curse and spread the word. That's just not how it don't go together. It really don't go together. So I just want to say that because I feel ill when you did all that, and yeah, you can drop me.
Okay. Thanks for coming. Well, I mean, if you don't think I do a good job, then you could just do a better job yourself. I don't know. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with using curse words because Paul put the word shit in the Bible. Jesus called people like den of vipers, blind fools. These are curse words back in those days. Like now that it seems sort of tame. Jesus was very offensive at the end of John chapter 6. Jesus offended a whole group of people when he told them to drink his blood. So to the Jewish culture, drinking blood was like kind of like us saying the N-word, right? If you drank blood, if you even had blood in your meat, it was you were looked down upon, right? You're not supposed to do that. And so like Jesus saying to drink his blood is like if today if Jesus came here and said the N-word or something like that. Like it's very offensive. Like he did like the most offensive thing you could probably possibly do to Jewish based on their culture. So I don't really think you understand the gospel very well. But no hard feelings or anything. I might have time for like one more. Buck Nasty, that seems like a mature intellectual atheist. Welcome.
Hey, how's it going?
Going well.
Hey man, I just want to say I've been listening for a while. I don't think you get enough credit for what you do, because I think you're putting together really solid arguments, and it's just like going over people's heads.
Yeah, I can't tell whether it's like actually going over their head or they're just pretending not to understand what I'm saying for as a strategy in a debate or something. It's very frustrating either way.
Seriously, I mean, I don't know, maybe they don't understand metaphysics or haven't read the Bible, but I mean, you're presenting it pretty simply, and they still don't get it.
That's what I'm trying to do. I'm not like a philosopher. When I first heard about this stuff, I was kind of like, what? And it took me a while to study and figure it out. And my goal is to kind of dumb it down, make it easily digestible so anyone can understand it. But it is kind of hard. It's a challenge. So I guess we just keep working and getting better at it. But it's hard to evaluate how I'm doing because I think a lot of people are deceptive when I talk to them. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, are you really not understanding me, or are you just like being obstinate because you don't want to admit that God is real?
There's a lot of trolls on TikTok.
Yeah.
And they love messing with people, but man, you're doing great work, man, and thanks. I really appreciate it. I just want to drop in before you. I know you had to head out, but just keep it up, man. I love your lives, and it's great talking to you. It's an honor.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man. It's nice that people enjoy it because I'm also trying to entertain and educate. So I'm trying to joke around and be funny too. So excuse the bad words here and there, I guess.
Yeah,
but I'm doing my best. None of us are Jesus. We're not perfect, so.
Truth.
Sometimes like that last guest, it's like she has this ideal that she's trying to hold me to. It's like no one can meet that standard. So
we're not Jesus. We know that. You
got to be somewhat realistic and like understanding of each other's limitations. But
and sometimes you can spread the word better with curses and real talk, street talk. Jesus, he was for everybody.
I think it's valid to say that the less curse words we use, the better we probably come off. So it's not a bad criticism, but anyways, I gotta go. Thanks, man. I really appreciate you, and I'll keep trying to stream because I enjoy doing this too. So I like getting trolled and trolling them back a little bit. So
awesome, bro. All right, have a good one.
Sounds good. All right, God bless everyone, and atheists, I wish you well.
God bless.